Hello, 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 and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the fourth episode of The Media That Shapes Us, a show about the stories we love and the people they inspire. Of course, as always, I'm your host, Rita Kamishiro of Lucid Multimedia, and today I'm so excited to invite you all to get to know our amazing guest for today as I make sure that their volume levels are good to go. Dante, so let me go ahead and switch on over, make sure our microphone here looks good to go.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much
inviting me.
being here. I'm so excited. I don't know if I got the chance to tell you this the other day, but I was just talking about it with my audience during stream the other day. But I've got the chance to meet so many awesome musicians in this space, composers, arrangers, what have you. And everyone is just so cool, so, kind and so, down to earth and honestly very talented in what they do. So I've slowly been getting to know a lot of folks in the sort of VGM or J-pop sound space. So I don't know, it's just really cool, and I'm excited to get to know more about you, and I'm excited for everyone to get to know more about Dante. We've actually gotten the chance to be in musical projects together. For those who are familiar with Resonant Union, I know I plug Perfect Arrangeworks a lot on this channel and all that good stuff. So I hope you all are just excited as I am to get to know Dante. But if you're not familiar with who our guest is today, worry not. As I've mentioned, we talked about Resonant Union, but you may have also heard their work with Hoyo Fair, Miku Expo, Diverse System, and many more. And Dante, also known under the alias Sound Circlet, is a composer, arranger, music producer, and sound designer for visual media. And while his unique melody-driven style is a blend of influences from all over the world, seamlessly blending elements of jazz, rock, folk, and EDM, his love for video games is what sparked his love for music and music production. So today we'll get to learn about the Atelier Series. Am I saying that right? Atelier?
Yeah. It's basically the French word.
I'm not fluent in French, so I apologize if there's... But yeah, I'm excited. A series that I've heard a lot about, but I haven't really gotten the chance to dive into. The Atelier series, which a few of the many games were the influence on Dante's music, but also his broader philosophies. But of course, if you want to check out more of their work, please check out their YouTube at Sound Circlet or visit soundcirclet.net. And before we jump into today's show, let's see what else Dante would like to share about himself. Maybe other websites or social media maybe I haven't gotten the chance to plug.
So I'm usually on Twitter at Sound Circlet. I'm on all sorts of stuff. Basically, the place where you'll find my work most, I guess, is on my website, soundcirclet.net. I have a thing where it's all of my projects and stuff like that. But in terms of socials, mainly I'm on Twitter. I'll talk a lot about stuff that I like, stuff that I've been doing. But yeah, that's me.
Well, thank you for being here, of course. And for those who are new here and not familiar with the show, if you have any questions, I know you guys aren't on screen today, but we can still see you. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to share them as we go along, but we will have a dedicated Q&A section, so if you have any questions, you could also save them for then, and it'll be easier for us to catch them. But today, as I mentioned, we are going to be learning about how the Atelier series has influenced and shaped Dante into who they are today, not just as a musician, but as a person as well. So we'll start things off getting to know about the series as a whole, then we'll dive into the music of the Atelier series and how that influenced Dante's work. And then lastly, we'll talk about the games specifically within the series and, get to know some of the favorites in the series, and maybe we'll get to see what, in Dante's opinion, is the best game in the series. Before, as I mentioned before, we'll have a Q&A any other announcements Dante might have. And then for today, we actually are raiding into another one of my good friends who is also a composer and arranger for his VTuber debut. So lots of really exciting stuff today. And I guess without further ado, I made this joke earlier. I'm gonna reuse it. Dante being an Uma Musume enjoyer, I was like, as the Uma enjoyers would say, let's go off to the races or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. So, Atelier Series, a series that I've actually heard a lot about, but I haven't truly gotten to know much about. But in sort of our pre-talk show interview, if you could call it that, you described this series to me as a JRPG for people who don't want to think too hard.
Okay,
and I loved that. So can you tell us about the Atelier series as a whole and how it stands out from other JRPGs?
Yeah, I can sort of go into a bit of the overall kind of like just the outline, I guess. Yeah. So the Atelier series is a series of JRPGs developed by Koei Tecmo's Gust division. It's basically it was a company back then that they basically bought and then turned it into one of their subsidiaries. You basically play in all of these games consistently. You play as like a young alchemist girl whose goal is basically to help the people around the town and whatnot with various tasks using your special ability as an alchemist. So basically what alchemists do is they take items, like materials, items, anything they can find basically, and they use it to create basically tools, weapons, anything that's like really necessary for like everyday living and like exploration and whatnot. So as like a game series, I would describe it as kind of like a broad mix of life sim, like Harvest Moon, and whatnot, with like JRPG, like pure-hearted JRPG elements, like going out to dungeons, fighting monsters, getting items. So there's kind of this like duality, I guess, between the gameplay styles, where it's like at one point you're like going out to do exploring, you're going out fighting monsters and stuff like that, specifically to get materials, and then for the second half of that gameplay loop, you're basically just making items. You're making whatever you need to finish either a quest or like a kind of like a little like side story thing. And so with JRPGs as a whole, I think generally there's like this overall, I guess, like reputation for them being like really huge epics, like 40 to 60 hours, stuff that you really need to like put in the time and the effort into really getting to like understand what they're doing. And the difference is with Atelier games is that for the most part they're actually like very short. I would say the average Atelier game is maybe like 10 to 15 hours.
Oh wow.
And it doesn't really have as big of a focus on like one compelling narrative as much as it has a focus on like a cast of characters and like their dynamic between each other and how those characters are living and just basically living their daily lives in whichever setting that the game takes place in, for example. Most of the games basically just take place in one sort of centralized town. Usually it's established to be the main character's like hometown, or maybe it's a town that they moved to for work and whatnot. But basically it's kind of where that whole like gameplay loop that I described earlier comes from. It's basically you stay in town to do the crafting bits, and then you go out of town very briefly to different fields and like mountains and whatnot to do the gathering before you come back home to do all the synthesis stuff. It's kind of, to me at least, I feel like it makes for a very formulaic and almost repetitive kind of gameplay style that isn't really what you would find in like maybe like a Final Fantasy game where you're like on like one big continuous journey. You start from this part of the world and you sort of like end up wherever you end up in at the end. Yeah.
Sure.
Um,
I see what you mean, though, about how, you know, it sort of stands out from other JRPGs in that JRPGs normally tend to focus on the epic journey, the epic battle, right? Everything kind of leads up to that. But sort of what you're telling me about the Atelier series, it seems to focus a lot on the journey itself and the people that you meet. And to me, it kind of mirrors, at least for how I understand and perceive these genres, the difference between escapism in shonen generally and shoujo generally. Because whereas in shonen, you sort of remove yourself from the everyday, you put yourself into a fantastical world, you put yourself into a magical world to escape from the everyday. Whereas a lot of the times shoujo manga or anime, what have you, tends to put that magic into the everyday. And you find that little sparkle in the mundanity, in the everyday routine. Do you feel like that's sort of the magic of the Atelier series?
I think that's a really, really good way of putting it. Yeah. I didn't really make the shoujo comparison like when I was like going through these series, but honestly that makes a lot of sense because I feel like firstly like the main cast is mainly like women focused. It's a very like female centric sort of like casting for the most part. Obviously there's like additional party members that are also like you meet a bunch of guys. Obviously you meet a bunch of little dudes too, like not humans. But for the most part, yeah, it is kind of a very like shoujo-esque, I want to say, like outlook, and especially with the slice of life elements. The big focus on slice of life is really one of the things that really compelled me, because it feels like you said, the magic in the everyday. It's a really, really, really poignant way of putting it because that's kind of a lot of what the thematic kind of elements that are being kind of talked about it throughout the games is because for the most part with only like a few exceptions the games feel as a whole, if you really like compare where you start off at and where you end off at, they feel very static, but not really static in the way of like nothing happens, but more like static in the way that instead of something changing in like where you end up in or how this like something changing in like the world as a whole, it's more like something changing within the characters, while the environment and the setting around you kind of is the same setting that you've always known. So it's really more of a coming of age thing, where as the characters grow throughout the games, it changes the way they interact with the people around them. It's a really interesting thing. I can probably go into it more down the line. Yeah.
I mean, I think now would be a great. You mentioned it's sort of a coming of age story, and you had mentioned to me previously that you discovered the series in your late teens and got into them through the rest of your high school years and going into college. Do you find that this series was influential to you during this time period? And if so, I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah. So I kind of spent most of my high school time like either doing music or studying. That was the point in which I really knew that I wanted to do music. But kind of as a result of that like shift in focus, I really kind of fell out of gaming, like hardcore gaming as a whole. It's honestly mainly do like stuff related to like high school, like exams and stressors like that. So at this point, music was kind of everything for me. Like I particularly like video game music because I knew in myself I wanted to do music for video games as like my main thing. So the Atelier series, I actually discovered that because of the music. So around 2017, I want to say like 2017 or 2018, I remember seeing a few friends of mine. I was in a bunch of like music composer circles way back, and they were talking about one of the battle themes from one of the Atelier games, Atelier Aisha. And I listened to it and I thought it was mind-blowingly good. Like, oh my god, I didn't really realize that like people were making music this good. And so that led me to kind of seeking out more, kind of listening to a few more songs, like going through like soundtrack uploads on YouTube. And that kind of put the series on my radar. I had actually tried to play Aisha during this time, like in high school, but I unfortunately kind of fell out of it. I mainly blame the fact that I was like much younger, more impatient. I didn't really have the I guess the interest to play like even one of these like little comfy RPGs. But I really only decided to really pick up the series properly around maybe I want to say 4 years ago. So that would be I want to say like starting the beginning of senior year of high school, going into college. This was when I played my first Atelier game that I quote unquote properly played, I want to say, was Atelier Sophie, which I'll be talking about down the line, because it's one of the games I always talk about whenever I talk about the series. Sophie was the game that I kind of like made me like really sit down with the series. Kind of like a background on how I usually play games. I don't really like to play a game unless I really set aside both the time and like the mental preparation for it, because especially when you're working with something like a narrative game or like an RPG, where there's usually such a huge overarching story. Like if I'm not in the mindset for it, the information kind of like goes in one ear out the other.
For sure.
And then there's like that thing. You probably know this feeling, like you play through a game like once, like maybe for like 10 hours. You stop playing for like maybe like 4 weeks up to like multiple months. You try and get back into it, and just you have no idea where you stop.
Exactly.
It's that happens to me so often, and at that point I kind of realized, if I'm going to play a game, I'm going to actually make sure I have the time, I have the kind of the mental prep to really sit down with it. But that's kind of what I realized really early on about the Atelier games, is that despite the fact that they're like mainly designed as JRPGs, so gameplay wise it's very JRPG, it's like focused more on like individual characters and like character dynamics in the casts, and less focused on like the overarching narrative. It makes it really easy to kind of pick up and play and just kind of like vibe out to for a bit. And it really helped scratch that itch, because I wanted that JRPG gameplay. I wanted to go through like the field exploration, the turn-based battles, and also obviously the crazy good music, without really having to put in all that brain power to follow along with this like really huge story. And so Sophie was that game for me. And then over the next few years, I would basically buy pretty much every single Atelier game I could find on PC.
How many?
Because I would say there's like 15 of them.
Oh, wow.
On Steam alone. I have probably given Koei Tecmo around $600 of my card.
I respect that. I have to respect that for sure.
But yeah, I basically played all of not all of them. Like there's a few that I haven't gotten around to just because of workload concerns.
For
but
sure.
Most of them I've played around them. I played them through around the years like 2021 to 24. I want to say. So pretty recent. I've still been going through the series. The only ones I don't have are the ones that just obviously because of accessibility and stuff like that. I haven't played many of the early ones, like the PS1 to PS2 titles, and I don't have the money to buy the newest ones. So like Atelier Yumiya and the Resleriana Guardian of Red or White, whatever the name of that one is. I want to play those games, obviously, but I'll get to them when I get to them.
You'll get to them. You're journey is still continuing. And you mentioned to me earlier, like, oh, I didn't get into this series like as a kid. Like, I just got into it relatively recently, but I still feel like 4 years is definitely enough time for a game to impact you. I mean, look at me with like Xenoblade. I think I'm coming to like 2 years of getting into the series, and it has completely changed my life and sort of how I perceive the world. And you told me that the series as a whole has impacted your broader philosophy. So as we sort of wrap up this section about the series as a whole, I want to know what sort of aspects we mentioned this sort of slice of life and focus more on the magic of the mundane. But are there any other aspects in addition to that you want to talk about that informed your philosophies or your worldview?
Yeah, so one of the really big, I want to say like the most like poignant like themes throughout these games is that idea of self-discovery and kind of like finding your place in the greater world. Because the thing that I love about these games is that you're not playing as the hero. You're not playing as like the quote unquote like the one that everyone really like relies on, I guess. In a way, people do rely on you because you are like good at what you do. You're an alchemist,
right.
And typically in how these games work is you're usually the only alchemist or one of very few alchemists working in that sort of like world or like that city, that town. So you still have that kind of that importance, but you're not the world doesn't revolve around the main character. But what's important is throughout the journey that these characters go through, they learn for themselves what they want to do with their lives, because like that's kind of what a coming of age story is all about. It's about like young people trying to figure out their way through like life and trying to figure out what their purpose is. And the what I particularly like about how these games handle it is because of how self-directed the game is, how the game doesn't really anchor itself around one huge like overarching story. There is a story there's like a main story like quest, but it's more about how you the protagonist, playing as the protagonist, kind of uncover the secrets and the mysteries of the world that you're in. There's it kind of depends on the game. Some games have a more have a bigger focus on the narrative. So the way that the series is laid out is basically there's a bunch of trilogies. So trilogies are basically 3 games in one trilogy. So there's, for example, the Dusk trilogy, which is Atelier Aisha, Atelier Eska and Logi, and Atelier Shali, and those all feature different protagonists, but they take place in the same universe, and they have the same overarching world building and sort of lore behind it. So as you go through all 3 of the games in a trilogy, you learn about the world of this trilogy, but you learn about it in the perspective of the different protagonists. And because everything's connected, people, the characters that show up in the first game will also show up in the second and third games, and they will have grown between all 3 games. So there's this sense of a chronology that happens throughout the games in a trilogy, and it's through that chronology that theme of like coming of age really like sets in, because I feel like a lot of games, a lot of like typical JRPGs, you have a story that starts and then it ends, and then there's kind of like an anchor point that it starts on, and then an anchor point that it ends on. But with the way that the trilogy kind of like, I guess, structure works, is that the end of one game, it feels like it's kind of an anchor point, but it also feels like it could go so much more. So when you play the second game, it starts off as a different protagonist, but then slowly the kind of connective tissue finds itself, and then you realize that, oh, the first game and the second game are actually more intertwined than you originally thought. And it makes the series feel like this, or at least per trilogy, it makes each game in the trilogy feel so much larger than it is.
Right.
And it's really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like just the way that this series is structured in so many different ways, I feel like it really takes the focus away from the big event, because I feel like we as people tend to focus so much on big events, like I gotta, all this stuff I'm just doing to get to graduation or to get that job or to like get married, and oftentimes we don't really focus on like the everyday, the sacrifices that we make day to day, the growth that we have day to day, or honestly just the small fun moments that we have, spending time with each other and things that we love. So I love how it kind of slows things down and also takes focus away from those big events, like finishing like the game, the big boss or whatever, but rather it kind of, puts more focus on how we connect to one another and how we impact one another. So yeah, I think that's super cool.
Actually, on that, the really fun thing about these games is because they're still like JRPGs, there is like a final boss. There is like a thing, but it's not like the entire like thing. The entire objective of the game is centered around finding this like final boss. Really, it just kind of shows up at the end.
Yeah, exactly. It's all part of the journey. Everything's sort of important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's super cool. Well, thank you so much for introducing me to the world of the Atelier series as a whole. We kind of touched upon this a little earlier, so I'd love to sort of shift into diving into that a bit more, about how you got into the music of the Atelier series and how it's shaped sort of your music style and your music sense. So I think a lot of people can relate to getting into a video game through its music, and you mentioned that specific battle OST was how you found the Atelier series and got into it. But what about the Atelier series' music really started to get your attention?
Yeah, so to kind of like put it into perspective, the way that the music direction for these games is kind of like a blend between like kind of Celtic folk fantasy inspired stuff with a bit of that like peppy like J-pop and like Anison kind of like melodic sense into it, and that's the one thing that really stands out the first time you listen to like either a battle theme or whatever. It's that the composers that were working at Gust, they really knew how to write a melody.
Wow.
They really know how to write a melody, and they really know how to kind of just get the energy going, especially in the battle themes. Like I can think of like multiple like top 10 battle themes in all of JRPG whatever like videos that people made like between like now and the year like 2012, and at least 3 of them are Atelier series. It's the combination of like organic kind of acoustic instruments with the really folk inspired writing and like the melodic sense. All of those really those are elements that in general in music I tend to gravitate towards. I'm one of those kinds of people that doesn't really concern themselves too much about like complexity in terms of like harmonic progressions or whatever. Like to me, the most important thing is you can write a hook that is really memorable, that people that just sticks in your head, and like a hook that basically just anything that makes the music sound like something that you would want to either sing or hum to, or just generally like something that you want to remember. And the series has so much focus on like really peppy, catchy melodies, and really I want to say like really heartful, like very quaint, cozy, almost comforting like arrangements, like with all the acoustic instruments, with a bit of but like the occasional like rock band arrangement and whatnot, and it does all of that so incredibly like organically. It never feels out of place. Everything kind of feels like it's part of the same musical, like I guess musical world overall. Yeah.
Do you have a song, sorry, just a curiosity, do you have a piece that you've written that you feel like is the most Atelier core, just off the top of your head?
Yeah, there. Wait, I want to say like in 2021, there was a so in 2021 I was in college. during college, I ran this, or I didn't run it. I helped lead this club called the Video Game Music Club at
That's
the
so
Berkeley
cool.
College of Music. Yeah, it's basically a club dedicated towards video game music, and we had this thing that every month we would do a sort of like a not a competition, like a write to an image, write to a prompt kind of like exercise showcase, where basically we let the members of the club, we gave them a selection of 3 to 4 images. Then we would let the people write 1 minute at least, like 1 minute at most, sketch, basically scoring that image, and then we would come together at the end of the month to just kind of listen to all of them. For one of those sessions, there was an image that was particularly kind of like anime battle coded, and so I was like, I decided I was going to make a track out of it, and it's a track. It's on my SoundCloud. It's called Spring Blossom Cyclone. It's I can share it later if
please. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and it basically is everything that I like out of a Atelier Series battle theme, except like I did it, like it like basically like distilled through my experience, and I still think it's one of my best work, and I'm itching for an excuse to either turn that composition into like a vocal thing, or to include it in like a future like game project. Like I'll just basically pitch it to them, and they're like, hey, can we use this somewhere?
Can we use this?
And hasn't happened yet. It will.
All right, everyone, email your favorite game studios right now.
Yeah, I'm very attached to that one.
Sure.
And a lot of my recent like work on this project, I can't say anything about the actual project for obvious reasons, has been very influenced by this series, and I can't wait for people to be able to hear it.
For sure. And sort of thinking about this exercise of turning an image into music, and you sort of being very focused on melody, you want to write something that, you know, sticks in somebody's head, right? When you write music, is there a specific sort of mental process that you tend to focus on? For example, whenever I write lyrics, for me, I always think of what is the core emotional theme that I'm trying to convey to the audience, so that even if you aren't familiar with, like, for example, if I'm writing for a game or if I'm writing a fan song for an anime, even if you're not a fan of that show, you can still relate to it, as this is something I've felt in my life. So do you have a similar mental process where you're like, okay, this is where I'm gonna sort of start and build the core of my piece?
Yeah, so the way I always like, the way I lay out my like compositional philosophy is, I'm one of those people that has 1 or 2 very specific moments in the song that I really want to hit, that I want to really hit. Like usually in like pop songs and stuff like that, that's the chorus hook. Like that's really what you want. But even in stuff like incidental, like music for like films and background music and whatnot, there's always a moment that I feel like is the defining moment of the tune, and that's kind of how I frame like any piece that I write for anything. Basically, it's like, what is that moment, and how do we get there, and what's the journey to that moment, and how do we get out of it, is all centered around this one core moment, like one core section. And like in a lot of anime music, I feel like a lot of them have, like, if you think about like just off the top of my head, like something like in Kill la Kill, whenever Sawano wrote the score, he would always have that one moment. It cuts to like a brief bar of silence,
right?
And then that melody hits, and it's like bam, 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 and that because Sawano is like probably my favorite anime composer like ever. That philosophy I apply to all of my music, in the sense that I really want there to be that one moment that really sticks in their head, even if it's the most mundane slice of life, whatever background cue that is like used once in like in like the entire game. Even those cues, I want to still be engaging enough musically to really kind of like be interesting enough for them to kind of notice.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so cool getting to hear about everyone's sort of their process and their musical philosophies. I think it's really cool too, kind of going back to that exercise again about how you're taking an image and turning it into music. I just think that's music, along with other modalities of like art. It's such a powerful way of saying something that you maybe have trouble saying in another way. Does that make sense? Like if you aren't able to say something with words, a lot of people are able to say it with music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find
Definitely.
that? Do you find that writing music for you? Do you find that? Do you? I guess do you resonate with that?
Yeah. I definitely feel there's like a lot of moments because I love listening to music just as much as I love writing it, and there's always those 1 to 2 like really important songs to me that I just can't really describe what they're doing. I know what they're doing on paper, but the way, like the emotions that are elicited when I listen to these and how that kind of ties to like what I know, that's kind of that indescribable kind of like feeling that music is really good at like basically that at making. Like those feelings are what it can do almost like inherently. I feel like a big part of being a composer for me, personally speaking, is being able to, or I guess it's like kind of more like a goal or like a dream, and it's to make something that can elicit those same feelings that I get whenever I listen to my favorite things in someone else. And I don't really know how I'll get there, if that's gonna, if or like when or how or like what that's even gonna sound like. I just know that my end goal is to get that feeling.
For sure. Share sort of what you're feeling inside and be able to have other folks be able to feel the same feelings as well. I totally get that. For sure. I feel like you've already done that with your music.
Oh, thank you. It means so much to you. Yeah.
I feel like, you know, sometimes you don't realize like just how many people have listened to our music and just how many people have been impacted by our music. And just like how you've been impacted by the music of the Atelier series, I feel like you've passed that on to your listeners as well.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for talking not just about, you know, Atelier series music as well, but your music as well. Is there anything else? I don't want to move away from this topic before, you know, you're done talking about it, but is there anything about your music or about the Atelier series music that you want to share with us before we sort of go into our last topic?
Yeah, so I want to like kind of briefly talk about, but like a lot of what the series excels at is that blend of like folk sounds, folk arrangements with that kind of J-poppy sound, and I feel like that balance is what makes it really stick out. Like, so I personally, I started a band. I started a band like in college, but I really started to really turn this into like a project recently. It's about a band called Fabula Nova. So a lot of my work in that was influenced by the fact that I realized how kind of effective the kind of combination of like folk instruments with like more like J-pop anisong like kind of writing, how that combination kind of works together. I wanted to create like an outlet where I could explore that in my own terms, kind of like really find out how that kind of goes together, and like it being a band and me being able to invite all of my friends to help bring that to life too. That's another element to it that I really love. Because my role in the band, aside from like writing the music, is I play the tin whistle. So like,
nice.
the Irish whistle, that's like and it's like not even an instrument I'm particularly like quote unquote like great at. It's like it's not even my principal instrument. When I was going through music school, I was a drummer. I played the drums.
Cool.
So I picked up the tin whistle partially because of the video game music that I loved so much, like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, and then also Atelier, because so many of the songs in that series revolve around those Celtic folk instruments
For sure.
being, I guess, recontextualized or kind of reimagined in this new sound, and it's really cool stuff.
What's really cool about like music is that whenever you're trying to tell a story in like a fictional work and you want to sort of build a world and tell a story, the beautiful thing about music is that it has very real like cultural ties and historical ties to our world. And so, for example, when you blend like Celtic and folk music, you're able to draw on like a whole wealth of history and culture to be able to, I don't know, like draw inspiration from and help build that image of that world. It's so super cool. And I mean, same thing with the pop side and the any-song side as well. You sort of draw from that energy and from that sort of, I don't know, from that culture and that history as well.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, honestly, if you, for this, I say if you, talking to the audience, there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can learn about music through its history. So if you ever get the chance to learn about how like a genre has come to be and the impact of a genre on people and you know, culture, it's really cool. I definitely recommend you check that out.
Musical cultures is like one of the most important parts of I guess, to me at least, of being a working musician. It's because not only is it like really cool just kind of intellectually to kind of learn about like all the cultures and the history that came before us, but it's also, I feel like, kind of important in the sense that it lets us really connect with the people around us and the cultures that make up our earth, and
Absolutely.
So especially in cases where like as a game composer, you're going to be working with all sorts of different influences and all sorts of different people. It's also kind of like a danger point because you don't want to disrespect people either, right? So that's why the history is important, so we know what we're drawing from, and we know what to do, and we also know what not to do, really.
Right,
and
exactly.
It's a really important point to remember if you're a composer or like someone who just wants to do music, even if it's just for fun. The history is what determines a lot of like how things came to be now, and so I think it's really important for us to really be aware of that and to pay respects to that.
Absolutely. It's super important to be able to understand, because if you I understand like using themes from like a genre to really I guess tell a story, but it's also important to understand how that genre came to be, if that makes, I guess I can give an example to sort of like you know, clearly say this point that I'm trying to make. For example, a lot of people use like the rap genre. There's a lot of, you know, powerful rhythmic aspects to it. There's a lot in terms of like the delivery and the flow and things like that. But sort of understanding the history of rap music or the hip hop genre in general, kind of where it started and sort of the messages that people tried to send with their rap or their hip hop music. A lot of that being, you know, a political or, you know, talking about their sort of discontent with the state of the economy or, you know, politics and things like that. I've sort of talked about this in great length when I did a presentation about rap music and in Devilman Crybaby. And it's such a great way to have, you know, to choose. I just feel like when you choose a genre, there should be a good reason why. And for them, they chose rap because a lot of their characters were discontent with the state of how the world is. And the fact that a lot of rap music was born from that, the discontent of, you know, the state of politics or the economy, they were able to draw from that anger and that discontent and respect those roots in their music. So I don't know. I just think there's not only is it that you get to understand the story that you're trying to tell in a deeper I guess, level. But you also get to understand and respect the roots of the music that you make.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with
For
all of that.
sure.
Yeah, very well put.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us your inspiration for your music. I think it really, like I mentioned, it really adds a layer of understanding when you're listening to someone's music. So don't forget, go listen to Dante's music, and now you get to have all this in the background of that. So to sort of wrap things up on a more fun note, as we go into our Q&A section as well. So I guess we can also, if you have any questions for Dante, you can start putting them in the chat, and we can collate them while I ask my questions as we dive into the game specifically. You mentioned to me before this talk show that your favorite games in this series are, and you'll have to forgive me, I might incorrectly pronounce these, Atelier Series?
Charlie, yep.
Atelier Sophie and Atelier Series?
Fierce, yep.
Fierce.
Yeah.
So tell us why. I'd love to know.
So, these three games to me are, it's kind of very much a personal, like how I connect with them generally. So I'll go by that order. So with Atelier Shali, so Shali is the third game of the Dusk trilogy. So the Dusk trilogy, I previously brought up, that's Atelier Aisha, and then it's Atelier Eska and Logi, and then Atelier Shali is the third game in that trilogy. And to me, the Shali, Atelier Shali kind of culminates everything that I really love about that trilogy. Because the entire trilogy has a really beautiful art direction. All the characters were designed and illustrated by Hidari, who you might know from being the person that did all the illustrations from Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. And they also did a bunch of Vocaloid stuff back in the day, and they have a very particularly kind of like fantasy-esque, like very painterly art style, and that art direction kind of shaped the entire world of like the Dust trilogy, and it gave it this really mysterious vibe that kind of, it doesn't feel as comforting and kind of as positive as the other games in the trilogy, because in essence, the Dust trilogy actually takes place in almost kind of like a near apocalyptic kind of like setting, because it's basically in the middle of a drought. Basically, it's a resource starved world, and basically what's happening is, you as the protagonist, you're just one of the people trying to live a good life in this like resource starved world, and that kind of those inklings of like darkness in what is generally like a very positive and outgoing kind of like game really add a lot of depth to it. And Shali, I feel like, as the third in the trilogy, really has like it wraps up everything from the previous two games really nicely. It brings back all the characters from those games, and it does all of this while kind of telling a really beautiful story about like like a beautiful friendship between two girls, and like how they try and kind of find comfort in one another, despite being from very different backgrounds. So one of the protagonists, she's from a more like royal sort of like royal princess kind of I guess background, and the other protagonist is just kind of a everyday like a peppy, outgoing kind of city girl, and they come together despite their differences, despite their very, very radically different.
Princess and the Pauper.
And the dynamic between the characters in Shali, in particular, really strike me as being kind of everything that I feel like I like about the series as a whole. And I feel like everything that I want to see out of this franchise was realized in Shali, pretty generally speaking. I think the Dusk trilogy is worth it just to get to that point alone, personally speaking.
Oh, so if you were to kind of step away from the question to do another question real quickly, how does one get into the Atelier series? Where should someone start? Do you think like that Dusk series thing, or is it something else? The Dusk trilogy or something else?
I would actually. So I have this whole thing that I give to people basically whenever they ask.
Oh, listen in.
I think I'm actually gonna get into this after I talk about the other two games.
For sure. Okay, so let's see. For sure. Sophie
it's all connected. It's all connected.
Okay, gotcha.
So the second game I gave you was Atelier Sophie, and that game I put it there because it's the first game in the series that really cemented my love for the franchise. It's the start of the Mysterious trilogy, which was the trilogy that came after the Dusk trilogy. So completely disconnected from the Dusk trilogy. The way that these trilogies work is that the trilogies are they're separate continuities and they're separate worlds, but everything within that trilogy is connected, but everything outside of that trilogy is not connected. So that's kind of the gist of it.
Okay.
I love Sophie because it's the start of what would become one of my favorite casts of characters in basically fiction, generally speaking. And it also has my favorite iteration of all the general like iconic gameplay formulas that would basically make up the rest of the series. Like it has my favorite iteration of the synthesis, like crafting system. It has my favorite battle system with its more classic turn-based kind of mechanics, and I also kind of just find it really comforting in a way that Dusk games weren't, because the Dusk games had that underlying darkness that really made the world feel very, very. I don't want to say like deep, because it's a very like throwaway word, but it just feels very, very organic. But Sophie is more lighthearted. It's the stakes. You wouldn't even say that the Mysterious trilogy has stakes. Stuff kind of just happens in it, and to me, that's not like a bad thing. I like the fact that stuff just kind of happens.
For sure. And then Atelier Series.
Yeah. So Furious is my favorite game in the series, and it is such a weird take if you've ever hung out with any Atelier fan outside of me.
No.
A lot of people hated this game when it came out. A lot of people did not like Furious, and the main reason why is because it's a black sheep. It decided to take the more centralized gameplay loop that I talked about with Sophie, where the game takes place in like one town, and you can kind of temporarily go to other places to gather and then come back. Atelier Furious is more of a point A to point B journey. It's entirely nomadic in the sense that you don't have one home base. You basically are like a traveling atelier. You can put your workshop down wherever you want in the world. Well, okay, not actually wherever. There's like camp spots that they put throughout the thing. So it's basically the Gust's attempt at making a proto open world Atelier game.
Okay.
Which they would later do with the second and third games of the Rise trilogy, which is all way later. I love Furious because it feels like such a passion project from Gust. It has really it feels like it's such a weird departure from the games, but it feels like that it's that way because they wanted it to be. They wanted to experiment, and they wanted to really put in all of their chips into making something that's so weird and so unique. And to me, it has one of my favorite kind of overall like gameplay loops, because essentially the game is all about Furious finding her path, her like role in the world, almost literally, because she is basically traveling throughout the entire world of the game, helping people along the way, kind of like figuring out like little mysteries, and just kind of learning what it means to be to be human, basically. In such a like large world. And Furious is as a character, she's very much designed and coded to be very young, like almost younger than even like Sophie. Like you would compare her to be like almost like an 11 or 12-year-old, and because of that immaturity it makes it feel so organic when at the end of the game she goes through this whole massive journey and you get to choose what she decides to do in the ending. You get to choose which of the party members she ends up like working together with in the future. And it has this really beautiful underlying story about like you really can do anything if you put in
put your mind to it. I love that.
It's because that's like you'd think that's like a really generic like whatever moral, but I feel like it's expressed really beautifully in the way that this game is laid out because it's an open world adventure. Not really open world, it's kind of like it does the Xenoblade thing of like open zones.
Yeah, for sure. And it's go ahead.
So yeah, to just finish off that point,
of course.
It has this weird marking of like an end of the era for Gust, because the thing that makes Furious a bit special is that it was actually the last game in the Atelier series to have gotten a full English dub. Everything afterwards is just Japanese with English subtitles. It has a full dub, and it has this. It's one of the only games that I can think of that has different language versions of the opening song sung by the main singer, the original singer.
Oh, wow.
So the song is called Flora. It was sung by Asako Nasu. She sings it in Japanese, and when you play it when you play an American version, she sings in English. And when you play a Chinese version, she sings in Chinese.
Oh, wow!
It has this really wonderful almost like they wanted this to be like the game to really expand their horizons of what they wanted the series to be. And even though like they wouldn't later go on to revisit the open world thing until much later, it has this overall like vibe and this overall like beautiful like a connective like tissue behind everything that just makes it feel so human to me, even despite the fact that like it has really weird like gameplay quirks and it's kind of like not, in a lot of ways it's not a really well designed video.
But you know, I love that sort of message that you get when you're playing this younger character and you get to choose sort of like, you know, what she does, and that aspect of, you know, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Because I feel like a lot of the times when you grow up, you kind of just get used to like, oh, I can't do it. Whether it's like, you know, you have a fear of something, or, you know, it's just been drilled into you that you can't do that. But, you know, being able to step into a more childlike version of yourself and say, you know what, it's okay to start over. It's okay to try something new. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to mess up. Then it's truly life-changing when you're able to do that. I feel like some of my most life-changing moments have been born from me like shooting my shot, or just being like, you know what, if I'm just gonna do this and have fun with it, and if it works out, then it works out, and if it doesn't, hey, I learned and I grew as a person, and that's okay. So I think that's super cool. I actually have a quick question about these three that from our chat here, and if you don't mind, we'll do a fun little quick little rapid fire Q&A. We have a lot of great questions here, but from these three, somebody had mentioned which Atelier game is your personal favorite, and I know that's blasphemous. It's like asking a parent to choose their favorite child, I'm sure, but if you had to pick from the three, which is your personal favorite?
Yeah, the thing is, that's a really hard question, because I picked these three because of how differently they they sit with my with my experience. But I think overall it has to be Atelier Series, just because I already went into like the whole thing about
sure.
it's that broader kind of philosophy of like, it's a game that feels like it really knows what it wants to be, even if it doesn't exactly stick the landing. And it doesn't feel like it ever plays itself safe at any point, because it has so much in it that feels like in any other series would be garbage. It would be awful. People would hate it. And people did not like this game when it first came out, but precisely for all the reasons that people didn't like it, I love it so much. It has this weirdness to it that I feel like is so human, so soulful, that I don't really, it's there. It's there
soul.
in this one game.
You can't.
And I
You
just
really
love it.
can't. For sure. I get that.
I just love
There's
it so much. I love it so much.
Oh my gosh. So kind of going back to that question of where should someone start? If you want, you can finish answering that question because I think we touched on it and we went back to our original question. So we'll start there and then I'll bring in another question.
Yeah. So what I usually tell people is I tell people to start with Atelier Sophie the same way that I basically got into it.
Okay.
Because so one particular thing that is worth mentioning about the series that I don't think I mentioned before, but the series has this overlying time limit element to a lot of the early games, where basically the game has a set time limit of 3 or 4 in-game years, and you need to finish the main game objective in those 3 to 4 years, or else you're locked into the bad ending. Usually it's 3 to 4 in-game years is not like a short amount of time. You can finish the game in like 2 years usually.
I see.
But it's kind of there to introduce like this almost like this transience, I want to say, to the game, where like at the end of those 4 years, if you're not done, you're it's over. You lose basically.
Oh my gosh.
And but because of that, it kind of pushes you forward to move along with the game. But what I like about Sophie is it doesn't have that time limit anymore. They got rid of it for the Mysterious Trilogy. I actually think they might have gotten rid of it before that, but this is the first trilogy where the time limit isn't really a thing anymore. And as a result, Sophie feels like a much more manageable, pick up and play at your own pace kind of game that makes it a perfect entry point to me. And all the things I said about it having my personal favorite, like synthesis gameplay system, my personal favorite, like battle system, and a really good cast of characters that just generally really like all of those reasons is why I tend to tell people, okay, if you really want to get a taste of what the Atelier series is about, start with Sophie.
I see.
After Sophie, I give people I ask people a question like, do you want to continue with the trilogy? Yes or no? If no, I tell them, all good. You can go. You can start any of the other trilogies. You can start the Dust trilogy. You can go to Ryza. You can go to kind of like the earlier ones, even if you really want to. As long as you start with the first game in the respective trilogies,
for sure.
because of how the whole trilogy thing works.
I see. I like how there's a flow chart. This is cool.
Yeah, no, literally, it's the whole flow chart. I also tell people that they should probably play Furious just to get their own opinion on Furious. If they love the game, I love them. I'm finally another one. If they hate it, that's fine. That's so fine.
It's okay. Like,
I no sweat off my back. People are allowed to feel however they feel about these games. But you're doing a good job of like.
For sure. And like, I will say this, you're doing a good job of pitching the series when I have Steam open and I'm searching up Atelier.
The only thing I'll say about the quote unquote accessibility is that these games are not cheap.
I'll consider it an investment in my emotional growth, in my personal growth for sure.
Yeah, Koei Tecmo used to be very stingy with their sales with this series in particular.
That's okay, but you never know. You just gotta shoot your shot. It might be life changing for you. You never know. Well, we're running a little low on time, so I apologize if I bring you your last question. I'm having a lot of fun learning about the Atelier series, so I can only imagine it must be devastating for you to have to be like, what? We have to stop talking about it here. Oh my gosh. Well, maybe we'll have you. Maybe I'll start streaming Atelier Sophie or something, and I'll have you come on as a special guest.
I'd love to.
You could be like my Paimon, guiding me through it. Oh my gosh! But I guess we'll end things off with a final question about yourself, and then if after this question you want to plug in anything that you're doing before we say goodbye. That'd be cool too. So somebody here asks, from the music that you've made, which one do you hold closest to your heart? If you can pick one.
It's a hard question, and I'd have to pick from the things that are obviously public.
For sure.
Ooh, hard question. I'll probably stick with this one. In 2024, I worked with Valley on the Multiverse Vistas, the one before String Theory.
Gotcha.
We made a song called Hopes, Dreams, Wings. It was about Robin.
Yes!
I really love the work we did on that one. Obviously, it could have been better because of the time concerns, but I feel like because we didn't end up actually like even getting on the leaderboard for that one, and it kind of stung for a bit, but sure. as a composition, as a song, we really put so much into that. I really love the work that we did, and I revisit that song a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I remember Riku and I were going through like all of the submissions, and I remember this, and I was like, the entire time. So definitely check it out here. I'll drop the link in the chat here for folks to take a listen. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I feel like I learned so much, not just about the series, and now I'm like curious to start it as well. But I feel like I've learned so much about you and your music, and I think it's just super cool. I know I've mentioned this earlier in the chat, but there's so many awesome people in this sort of online space of not just VGM, like composers, musicians, etc. But I don't know, like we do so much more than just like VGM, like music and covers and things like that. But I don't know, everyone's super awesome and really cool and really nice, and I just love hearing people's like stories. So thank you for being here and sharing yours.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah,
of course. Is there anything else you'd like to share with everyone before we say goodbye?
Follow me on Twitter at SoundCirclet. That's where you'll find me the most. I'm here. I talk. If anyone's interested in learning more about music production, music anything, feel free to drop me a question. I usually answer those I'm pretty on top of them sometimes, not always.
Be sure to follow for more Uma posting as well.
I also post a lot about the horse game. Yes, that's true.
Oh my goodness. Well, be sure to check out Dante, or also known as the Sound Circlet, for more cool music and more. And we'll see you all another time. Thank you all so much. This has been The Media That Shapes Us, a show about the stories we love and the people they inspire. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you! Bye!